It's all cap. It just talk.
Tank, when you were a young man, you sparred Teo out there in South Florida. What do you remember about?
I was playing with him.
Yeah.
I was playing with him. He was a kid.
What do you remember about that, besides the fact that you're playing with him, like his speed or his power? How do you feel you guys matched up back then? And how would you feel about fighting in the future?
Back then, I think I even sparred somebody else.
The world of boxing is often offering more than just insane matches. It is filled with personal rivalries, explosive back and forths, and unexpected twists.
We did 3 rounds. I was 15, he was 18, he was already a pro. It's different now, so much different. But I gotta say, I don't give no shit. He was trying to make a couple excuses, but if he's hitting me in the back of the head, I'm hitting him in the.
Tank and Teofimo Lopez are finding themselves caught in a story that seems to be spanning nearly a decade, dating back to their teenage years when they sparred. Recently, Teofimo made a comment about their sparring.
Tienes que moverte. Tírale algo, no tengas miedo. Vamos, gordo, tírale de 3. No deje que se rapee.
And it seems that Tank has had enough of it. Their history is traced back to a sparring session that Teofimo Lopez Sr., the father and trainer of Teofimo, posted online.
Niggas too pussy. I tried to fight Isaac Cruz, they said no. Sabrina Matias complained about his hand, but now he's fighting in June. I'm fighting in June. We could have made the fight happen. They didn't want it. And then after that, Devin Haney had that situation with Ryan Garcia. There's nobody else, really. And then everybody keeps bringing up Tank. With Gervonta, they got him on that. He ain't gonna fight me. Niggas too pussy. So I'd just rather go after the guy that's too much of an ego, and that's Terrence Crawford. I promise y'all, even after this, I remember when they mentioned him, they mentioned my name to him while he was doing the press conference or something like that.
The footage shows a young 15-year-old Teofimo squaring off against an 18-year-old Gervonta Davis, both wearing headgear, but the intensity is evident. To many, this is not just sparring, it is a preview of what's to come. From the sidelines, Teofimo Sr. is barely holding himself back, constantly shouting, critiquing, and pushing his son to challenge the older Davis. Even now, you can feel the tension in the air. Years later, Teofimo is stirring things up when he refers to Davis as a dirty sparring partner, which brought up an interesting reaction from Tank.
He's been catered more than I've been, and pampered more than I've ever been.
Never one to stay silent, Tank offered his own perspective on the sparring session and Teo's attitude. He brushed off the dirty accusations, pointing instead to Teo's ego. Teofimo Sr. is always vocal, often louder than his son when talking up his boy's talent, sometimes to the point of grating on the nerves of others in the boxing world. This particular jab from Gervonta seems to be cutting deep, exposing the frustrations that have likely been building up since that infamous sparring session years ago. But this isn't just about two young men with a grudge.
Those 2 fights interest you more, Gervonta Davis or Terrence Crawford?
Whichever monkey wants to get the banana.
You said which monkey wants the banana first?
Bro,
Their paths are destined to collide in the professional ranks. However, while the Tank Teofimo rivalry is brewing, there is another interesting story in the background, a potential fight between Davis and the slick Ukrainian maestro Vasily Lomachenko. Negotiations between their respective teams were heating up earlier this year, with many fans on the edge of their seats hoping to see the two superstars face off in a massive unification bout.
Potential opponent is Gervonta Davis. He's a new champion at 130. Would you want to fight him next if it came up?
I don't know. For me, he is not interesting because for what?
Money?
For what? Money?
Big money?
For the WBA and IBF lightweight titles. As summer approaches, it seemed like Davis versus Lomachenko was all but a done deal. The conversations between Bob Arum's Top Rank, who promotes Lomachenko, and Al Heyman's PBC, which represents Gervonta Davis, were reportedly going well. A potential showdown toward the end of the year was feeling almost certain. And if we're being honest, this is the fight that boxing fans are craving. A battle between the younger, explosive Davis.
Okay. Look at our sizes.
You don't care about rehydration then, like rehydration clauses.
When you're the best, you don't care about any of it.
And the highly technical, experienced Lomachenko. But just as quickly as talks were heating up, everything came crashing down in July. Lomachenko, surprisingly, announced he was stepping away from the sport, at least temporarily. His manager, Egis Klimas, made a somewhat cryptic statement claiming that Loma simply wasn't in the mood to fight Davis right now. It was a blow to fans who had been eagerly anticipating the match, and speculation ran rampant.
You know, and I just think that Loma brings something that Tank ain't never seen before. I think that Loma will be the hardest fighter that Tank has ever fought. The toughest, mentally skillful, experienced, even with the age. And then every legendary fighter, man, got one more good one in them.
Why the sudden change of heart? Why now, when Lomachenko was so close to an opportunity to unify the belts and cement his legacy? By framework, I mean similar to how we do Wilder and Fury. There is a framework to the dynamic of the two of us coming together and creating a massive event between PBC and Top Rank, Dubov explained. It's clear that while both sides are willing to make the fight happen, the pieces aren't quite coming together yet. Still, Lomachenko's decision to step away.
I could beat Tank. He's just setting up his boy. I think Tank was happy you think Floyd was happy that Tank left?
Left a bitter taste for many, especially as rumors swirled that he wouldn't return to the ring until 2025. That seemed like an eternity in the fast-moving world of boxing, where opportunities can disappear as quickly as they appear. For Davis, who had been eyeing the Ukrainian star, it was a frustrating setback. For Lomachenko, the decision seemed to stem from his disappointing loss to Haney earlier in the year, where he failed to capture the undisputed lightweight titles in a controversial decision. With Lomachenko out of the picture, Davis has no shortage of potential opponents. While a match against someone like Ryan Garcia or a fight with Shakur Stevenson would certainly attract attention.
Call that line on social media. Oh, you call them on social media? Well, that's easy to do, right? Social media, I can call out Mike Tyson. Question would be asking.
The rivalry with Teofimo Lopez is continuing to bubble to the surface. Teofimo, never one to shy away from confrontation, has been keeping the fire going with his public comments. He's dirty, and everybody knows it, Teofimo recently said. That sparring session shows who Tank really is. He's always trying to get an edge even when we were just kids. It didn't take long for Davis to respond. I don't know why he's so stuck on that sparring, Davis said in an interview with Showtime. It's been years. It's over. I've moved on, and he's still talking about it.
Yet, Tank, he's not fighting them. He's not fighting Devin. He's not fighting Lomachenko. He's not fighting Teofimo. He's not gonna fight Shakur. He's not gonna fight him. And Tank Davis is one of the biggest faces in boxing. He's one of the biggest pulls in boxing. No fucking question. He doesn't want a firefight.
He then added with a smirk, maybe he's just trying to hype himself up because, honestly, he hasn't looked that great lately. Even though it seems like Lomachenko is stepping away from the ring for now, the narrative keeps taking new twists. Fans and insiders are speculating that Lomachenko's decision to delay his return could be a strategic move, allowing him to assess the landscape in the lightweight division. Will Davis still be at the top by the time Lomachenko returns? Will a fight with Teofimo happen instead? For now, Davis's focus seems to be on proving himself as the dominant force in the lightweight division.
For the fight, but boxing politics, we have different promoters. Mayweather said, every time he said, hey, we have our...
Whether that's against Lomachenko, Teofimo, or any other contender. I'm here to fight the best. Whoever thinks they're ready, let's go. I don't care about the talking. The ring is where we settle things, Davis said. Meanwhile, Teofimo Lopez's ambitions have always been clear. He wants to fight the best and cement his place as the top name in boxing. Following his victory over Steve Claggett to retain his WBO title at 140 LEBS, Lopez is now zeroing in on his next potential opponent. And he's so sure it will be Tank. Lopez's call-out comes in the middle of swirling rumors that Davis could headline a PBC card in December, with David Benavidez featuring as the co-main event. Speculation suggests that Davis's next opponent could be either Edwin de los Santos, Jose Valenzuela, or Lamont Roach. Both fighters have had notable moments in their recent bouts. De los Santos is coming off a unanimous decision loss to Shakur Stevenson for the vacant WBC lightweight title, while Valenzuela earned a significant victory over Isaac Cruz to capture the WBA junior welterweight title. But Lopez wants his name added to the mix, believing that he is a far more compelling and dangerous opponent for Davis. Hey, Tank, give me a fight, brother, Lopez recently said.
Counter him and wait on him. I was telling Rolly how to beat Gervonta, and he was doing it from the first round to the 6th. But Rolly doesn't have the experience, and
he ain't fighting. I ain't fighting. What's up? I don't like people saying I'm ducking somebody. Why do I beat him? Because I'm the takeover, that's why. Despite his achievements, however, Lopez has yet to break through as a commercial superstar in the way that Davis has. While Lopez has proven his talent in the ring, his drawing power remains a topic of debate. His fight against Taylor, for instance, struggled to sell tickets, even in his hometown of New York. Moreover, Lopez has been accused of demanding unrealistic purses for his fights, which has made negotiations with other top fighters more difficult. This has resulted in Lopez often being considered the B-side in most potential matchups, despite his impressive resume. In contrast, Gervonta "Tank" Davis has become one of the biggest stars in boxing. His knockout power and aggressive style have captivated fans, consistently selling out arenas across the country. His most recent pay-per-view bout against Ryan Garcia was a commercial success, further solidifying Davis's status as a box office draw. However, it's not just Davis making waves in the division. Teofimo Lopez knows that a fight with Tank would bring not only a huge challenge but also the kind of financial rewards and exposure he craves. But if the Davis fight doesn't materialize, Lopez has other options. Ryan Garcia, who is currently serving a 1-year boxing ban after testing positive for the banned substance Ostarine, has also expressed interest in fighting Lopez once his suspension is lifted. Garcia's ban lasts until April 2025, and once he is eligible to fight again, he's eyeing the biggest names in the sport. A potential matchup with Lopez could happen at 147 lbs, or a catchweight just above 140 lbs. Lopez has shown interest in facing Garcia before, but negotiations stalled due to financial disagreements. Lopez revealed that he turned down a $1.5 million offer to face Garcia, believing that he deserves more given his standing in the sport. When you're the best, when you are the guy, when you bring major sponsors, endorsements, big business deals, and you offer me a $1.5 million stake? So yeah, I declined the offer, Lopez explained. He clearly believes he is worth more than what was offered and is willing to wait for the right opportunity. Training alongside Canelo, widely regarded as one of the most complete fighters of his generation, would undoubtedly benefit Lopez as he absorbs the wisdom that has made Canelo a multi-division world champion. Lopez's willingness to surround himself with greatness shows how serious he is about becoming the best in the sport. A win over Gervonta Davis, if the fight happens, would go a long way toward helping Lopez achieve that goal. While Lopez remains laser-focused on Davis, there are other major matchups in the lightweight division to consider. One of the most anticipated potential bouts is Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. Both fighters are undefeated champions, and their clash promises to be a classic battle of styles. Davis's devastating knockout power versus Stevenson's near-perfect defensive skills. Though Stevenson is currently sidelined due to a hand injury, with his return scheduled for February 2025, fans are already buzzing about a potential Davis-Stevenson showdown. Stevenson's next likely opponent is the undefeated William Zepeda, while Davis is expected to face Lamont Roach in December. Despite Stevenson's absence, the conversation about a potential fight with Davis has not died down. Many analysts believe that this fight could be one of the hardest to predict. Davis's knockout power is unparalleled in the lightweight division, while Stevenson's technical and defensive abilities are second to none. Teofimo Lopez, for his part, shared his thoughts on this potential fight during an appearance on the Jackson podcast. He believes that while Stevenson would make it a highly competitive contest, Davis will ultimately prevail. Tank is a good fighter for everyone out there who wants to see boxing, Lopez said. The only one that gives him a challenge is Shakur. Shakur Stevenson will give him a challenge because Shakur is technical, where you've got to think more. Tank has been fighting C and B class fighters. Ryan Garcia is an A+ on social media, but not as a boxer. We all know this. Lopez's remarks show his belief that while Stevenson's technical skills could make things difficult for Davis, Shakur won't be able to withstand Tank's power for the full 12 rounds.
That's it, man.
Davis has a knack for breaking through his opponent's defenses, no matter how strong they are. And in Lopez's eyes, Shakur will eventually get caught by that one punch that changes the fight. This view is echoed by Malik Montgomery, an undefeated super featherweight who has sparred with both Davis and Lopez. In a recent interview, Montgomery weighed in on a potential Davis-Lopez fight and gave a slight edge to Davis, noting that Tank's power is a significant equalizer, even against technically superior opponents. As Lopez waits for his next big fight, whether it's Davis, Stevenson, or someone else, he's positioning himself as a major player in the lightweight and junior welterweight divisions. His determination to prove that he is indeed the takeover, whoever it is. Teofimo Lopez's focus remains laser-sharp on Gervonta Davis, but if Tank doesn't give him the fight...
Boxing. Yeah. Me and Tank the biggest fight. That's the one. It's the biggest fight in the world. Yeah. Like, it's going to be the biggest boxing fight in the world when it happens.
Lopez already has his eyes on what could be the next biggest bout in the lightweight division, Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. Both fighters are undefeated champions, and their potential clash promises to be one of the most anticipated matchups in recent boxing history. The idea of a Davis-Stevenson showdown has been brewing for a while, especially after both fighters were active around the same time earlier this year. With Gervonta's reputation for devastating knockout power and Stevenson's near-perfect defensive skills, the bout has been seen as a classic clash of styles. Offense versus defense. However, as with many of the biggest fights in boxing, this one is not happening just yet. Instead, it's being left to marinate, with fans hoping that when it finally happens, it will be worth the wait. Currently, Stevenson is on the sidelines following surgery on his hand. This injury came at an unfortunate time, as both he and Davis seemed poised to fight next. Shakur has promised fans that he will return in February of 2025, with his first bout likely to be against the undefeated William Zepeda. Meanwhile, Davis is scheduled to return to the ring on December 21st in Washington, D.C., where he's expected to face super featherweight titleist Lamont Roach. Well, most likely. But despite Stevenson's absence, the conversation about a potential fight between him and Davis has not died down. Many fans and analysts believe that when the time comes, this could be one of the hardest fights to predict. Davis's knockout power is unparalleled in the lightweight division, while Stevenson's defensive prowess and technical ability are second to none. Yet, Teofimo Lopez has no doubts about how this fight will play out. Speaking on the Jackson podcast, Lopez gave his take on the fight, and he believes that Tank Davis will ultimately prevail, though he acknowledges that Stevenson would make it a highly competitive contest. Tank is a good fighter for everyone out there who wants to see boxing, Lopez said. He has those things for those people at 135. Yeah, he beats all those guys. The only one that gives him a challenge is Shakur. Shakur Stevenson will give him a challenge because Shakur is technical, where you gotta think more. Tank has been fighting C and B class fighters. Ryan Garcia is an A+ on Media Social, but not as a boxer, we all know this. Lopez's remarks show his belief that Stevenson's technical skills could make things difficult for Davis. But at the same time, he isn't convinced that Shakur has what it takes to withstand Tank's power for the full 12 rounds. Davis has earned a reputation for knocking out his opponents, even in situations where they've been technically superior to him. His fight against Mario Barrios at 140 LUBs, for example, showcased his ability to adapt, bide his time, and then land the knockout punch when it mattered most. As much as Lopez respects Stevenson's technical ability, he sees Tank's knockout power as the ultimate equalizer in the lightweight division. Davis has a knack for breaking through his opponent's defenses no matter how strong they are. In Lopez's eyes, Shakur might be able to frustrate Davis with his defense, but eventually Tank will land that one punch that changes the course of the fight.
Any talks with Tank's team?
They reached out, but we told them to come back with an offer. And as far as that, we ain't heard nothing since then. Me and him fighting each other, we'll seal the deal on
And when that happens, Lopez believes that it's game over for Stevenson. Lopez's view is echoed by others in the boxing world, including fighters who have had the unique experience of sparring with both Davis and Lopez. One such fighter is Malik Montgomery, an undefeated super featherweight who has shared the ring with both men. In a recent interview with Sean Zittel, Montgomery weighed in on the potential fight between Davis and Lopez, and his perspective was illuminating. Having sparred with Davis more recently and faced Lopez in a 2015 amateur bout, Montgomery has seen both fighters up close and personal. Maliek Montgomery and others believe Gervonta Davis's combination of knockout power and boxing IQ makes him dangerous, even for a technical fighter like Shakur Stevenson. While Stevenson's defense is strong, avoiding Davis's power for a full fight would be a major challenge. As Davis prepares to fight Lamont Roach in December and Stevenson recovers from injury until 2025, Teofimo Lopez remains active and vocal about his desire to face the top fighters in the division, positioning himself as a key contender.